Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of Waseda University's English podcast series, Rigorous Research, Real Impact. I'm Kevalia, your host for this episode. In this series, we bring you insightful conversations and stories from Waseda's vibrant academic and cultural community. Today, we're diving into a topic that's often overlooked in the headlines, and that is statelessness. While the mainstream news is filled with stories of conflicts around the world, we don't often hear about the conflicts that shape the lives of people on the ground. And so, in this episode, we attempt to focus on these unheard voices who find themselves stateless for a variety of complex reasons, which may include conflict or changes in the nation's policies, as well as deliberate choices driven by ideological differences with the states that grant citizenship. To discuss this issue in depth, we have Professor Lara Tianchi Chen with us today. She's a professor at the School of International Liberal Studies at Waseda University in Tokyo, Japan. Having personally experienced statelessness for over 30 years, Professor Chen advocates passionately for stateless communities. She recounts her life story and the real stories of people who've experienced statelessness in the recently published translation of her book, Stateless. In the book, Professor Chen takes us on a journey from her childhood to growing up as a stateless individual in Japan and the challenges she faced. We learn how she became a strong supporter of stateless individuals and about her awareness efforts. So, without further delay, let's jump in. A very warm welcome to you, Professor Chen, and thank you for joining us today. I recently read your book, Stateless, and found your personal story to be incredibly moving. In the book, you examine a little-known but persistent issue in today's world, which is statelessness. So, to start with, could you just help our listeners understand what statelessness is?
Thank you. Thank you very much for reading my book. And also thank you for that you moved by the book. I'm so happy to hear that. So first of all, I think we have to share what the definition of statelessness or stateless people. They are the people not recognized to be nationals of any state. So according to the UNHCR, there are 4.2 million people in the world reported as stateless. However, the actual number is estimated to be more higher. I think will be over 10 million. And important thing is that the term stateless people include those whose nationality are registered as undefined or their identity documents issued by the country of residence. There are also situations often observed in Japan where in the section for displaying nationality or region on person's identity document indicate that the person is a national of country A, when in reality the person is not registered as a national by country A. This leaves the people in the situation of statelessness or where their nationality is unclear. So I think that's why I think the number could be much higher.
Okay, so a large part of your book, of course, talks about your own experience of being a stateless individual for almost 30 years. And of course, that would probably shape your identity growing up. Could you also tell us a bit about that experience, about how this all shaped your identity?
Yeah, I myself lived as stateless over 30 years. I was born and raised in Yokohama from the Chinese parents. My father is 103 years old today. He born in Manchuria and he experienced government transition for many times. My parents escaped hardship of World War II and Civil War in China and moved to Taiwan, then moved to Japan in 1950s. And in 1972, Japan normalized the diplomatic relation with the People's Republic of China, while it broke with the Republic of China, Taiwan. My family became stateless alien in Japan with this event in 1972 when I was just a 1 year old. And our family were stateless alien with legitimate residence status. Therefore, legally, I could go to school and enjoy health insurance. However, because social awareness of stateless is very low, I experienced many discrimination and hardship. For example, when applying private elementary school, teachers were hesitant to accept me because I was stateless. And when I was studying in university, I need to rent an apartment, but the landlord hesitated because of statelessness and asked for guarantors and bank balance certificate of my guarantors. It was hard for me to apply scholarship and, of course, getting job as well.
Right. And that would definitely have an impact on one's sense of identity or one's sense of self. Actually, that leads me to the next question that I wanted to ask, because from there, your journey, you become an advocate for the stateless people, you've become an author, a filmmaker, and you do talk about how difficult it was to navigate these discriminations or challenges along the way. So what I wanted to ask is what motivated you actually to keep at this path and pursue this and just be an advocate for statelessness issues around the world?
Yeah, as being stateless, the most unforgettable experience is when I travel overseas. I could not enter any country, neither to Japan, where I born and live in, nor to Taiwan, where my parents from. I was just stuck in the airport. That time I really realized that border exists. I experienced firsthand that I am stateless person. Until then, I didn't not really know, and I don't understand what is stateless and what is written on my ID card. So I don't feel I was belong to Japan. So I decided to go overseas and studied doing my PhD research in US. And in US, I applied to work in UN because I thought UN could be, maybe I could find what I want to do at the UN because UN is the transnational entity. However, I could not be employed because I was stateless. And staff in the UN told me to get Japanese nationality and apply again. So after that, I think I should study about myself, about the statelessness. And around 97 or 98, I looked up statelessness in the library and could not find any literature on the subject. And I did not know which government to consult with or who to share with, and I was really at loss. And I thought it was really strange. Why I could not understand why they were more concerned with my nationality than with me as an individual. So I wanted to meet more stateless people and learn more about their reality. And I thought it was important to project it in a documentary film and communicate it to more people in an easy to understand way and let more people to know the reality of stateless people. And I want to share more about the lives of stateless people, and also wanted to establish a yoridokoro in Japanese. I don't know how to translate in English, but it's like I wanted to establish a base stateless people can feel at home that lead me to establish the NPO Stateless Network.
Thank you so much for that. And I do want to talk about the Stateless Network a bit later on. But what you talked about just now, for me as well, the book was quite revelatory. And I think a lot of people who will read it too, because it's not a topic that's spoken about very much. We don't really understand the scale of it. But I know you did talk about a few UN numbers. But would you be able to shed light on how serious you think or how prevalent the issue is in today's world? Especially, you've traveled around a lot, not just in Japan, but other countries as well. So could you talk a little bit about stateless individuals in different parts of the world you visited, or how prevalent you think the issue is?
Okay, I think stateless people are so variety. So, every individual have the different reason to become stateless. And some people became stateless because of the contradiction laws in the nationality law and determination procedure, making them ineligible for acquire the nationality. And some people lose their nationality and became stateless because of the disintegration of a state or a change in the ruling regime of the country, which we can see many from after Soviet Union or after Yugoslavia and so on, that these countries. And in some cases, people may not be granted a nationality, or they may lose their nationality because of discrimination against minority groups to which they belong. For example, I think everybody knows the case of Rohingya or Kurds people. And I think also there's a Tamil people in Sri Lanka. They also have lost their nationality. And for system for determining a person's nationality can be divided between those where the criteria for determining nationality is the country of birth, and those where it is the nationality of the parents that determines nationality. It is also often the case in many countries that both criteria are not into consideration for the determination of nationality. And in reality, in Japan, we have many stateless children born out of wedlock. For example, Japanese father and Filipino mother, they are not legally married. Or before 1984, there's many U.S. military personnel and Japanese women have the baby, and the baby end up stateless. So from these cases, I found that there's many variety in stateless people, and the reason are also different.
Thank you so much, Professor Chen, for explaining that. I'd like to move on to talking more about your research and work at the university, because you have dedicated a lot of your time there to spreading awareness about statelessness and even providing a platform for stateless individuals. So can you talk a little bit about your work at Waseda University and the research that you do?
Yeah, first of all, I think more people need to know the real situation of stateless people, statelessness. I try to create opportunity for students to think about statelessness and also question about nationality, that which people take it for granted. So I try to hold a photo exhibition or try to invite stateless people to come and give a talk, events, etc. And this year, we hold an international symposium titled Understanding Human Rights of Stateless People in the Real-Life Context in the Asian Pacific, in commemorating the 70th anniversary of the 1954 Convention relating to the status of stateless person. This was held in June 1st in Waseda, and we invited experts on statelessness from Thailand, Malaysia, and director of NGOs group that support stateless children in Philippines, and expert from UNHCR stateless division, as well as stateless people to join this event. And the goal of our event is to raise awareness on statelessness in general and to exchange knowledge, experience, highlight good practice, positive development accumulated in Asia, including Japan, and share challenges and to promote positive development, including Japan's establishment of statelessness determination procedure or access to the 1954 Convention on the status of stateless person, because Japan is not yet the member of the convention. and also to build the capacity youth group through collaborating organization with stateless network youth, building momentum for the final year of the UNHCR I Belong campaign. Yeah, that's what we did recently. Yeah.
That's some really amazing work, Professor Chen. I'm sure our listeners have learned a lot today about statelessness and about the awareness you and your team are raising for complex issues like this. The awareness you're spreading, I think, is so important to build empathy, question norms, and change perspectives. So hopefully it can eventually lead to policy reforms and maybe a more equal world. So yeah, thank you once again for sharing all of these insights with us. With this, we will wrap up the first part of our conversation with Professor Chen. Her account and experience have been incredibly moving and encouraging, and we look forward to hearing more about her personal journey as well as her research in the second half. So stay tuned for part 2, where we will dive into Professor Chen's impactful work at Waseda University and explore her ideas on how best to support the stateless communities. Don't forget to subscribe to Waseda University podcast to keep up to date on the latest rigorous research, real impact. Until next time, take care and stay curious.